Hi, I am BK, and this is the TLDR on Spectrum, part 5. Now, the first 4 parts are of course on Reddit, and I'm going to do this one as a video because I don't feel like writing so much on the skill tree when it's so much easier to just fire up the game and show it to you. So this is a look into my own barracks in my currently ongoing campaign. I'm somewhat at the beginning in May, and please don't laugh too much. There's a nice variety of wounds and fatigue going on here, but that's not why we're here. So there are 8 different classes in the game: the Codebreaker, the Desperado, the Hunter, the Paladin, the Scout, the Sniper, the Soldier, and the Spartan. And each one of the classes has the exact same skill tree. The only thing that's different between them is their stat progression from level up to level up. So how much aim, will, and health and so on they gain. And also one bonus ability here. So the soldier, as you can see, gets this military training which no other class can get. It's 4 aim, 1 HP, 1 mobility, fairly nice, and makes him a good all-rounder. Now if we look at some others, we can take a quick look at all of them. So this is the Codebreaker. The Codebreaker is the hacker type. He starts with lead skills, which gives him just straight up 30 hacking, and Blitz Hacker, which gives him another 15 hacking, and makes the hacking action when using a drone not cost an action. So this is useful on your typical hack missions. There's the Desperado. Desperados are, as you would imagine, good with pistols. They get the Gunslinger perk, which is a combination of return fire and what's it called? Quick fire, something like that. Well, he can fire pistols without ending the turn. And it also gives the pistol overwatch with other which classes without the Gunslinger perk can't get. Their unique little thing here is trick shots, which gives them a healthy dose of critical chance. With all weapons, of course, not only with the pistol. The Hunter has a stealth specialty, which makes them innately more difficult to detect, and they start with Phantom, which you of course know. As Paladin, he starts with Blade Master, which is another thing from the vanilla game, of course, and Fleet of Foot, which gives them a whopping +3 mobility. Really cool. 50 mobility right at the start. Skipping all these rookies here, we've got the Scout, who starts with the Recon Specialist, which is +3 sight range, and Battle Space, which is another 12 sight radius for 1 turn. We got the Sniper, who gets a nice little aim bonus here, and the aim ability on Hunker Down. We have the Soldier. We've seen this earlier. He has the military training, and his skill is Deathwatch. Deathwatch is this reaction ability, so Overwatch shots can be triggered by any action, and also you deal 2 damage if you miss a shot with an assault rifle. So only the last part, the one with the missed shots, is specific to assault rifles. The Overwatch shots works on everything. So it would still make sense to give the Deathwatch ability to one soldier with a sniper rifle, for example. And last but not least, there's the Spartan, who has the most health of all of the classes. He starts with Fortitude, plus 3 HP, and the Strong Back skill, which lets him carry all weapons without getting any mobility penalties for that. Now, what we've seen now is for every class this special bonus and one ability. And if we take a look at the perk tree, we will find all the other abilities from the other classes at the first rank. So now that I've taken the Spartan here, I can see there's the Phantom from the Hunter, the Blade Master from the Paladin, and the Deathwatch, and so on. And this way I can, with the first level up, combine two of these level 1 abilities to kind of set the tone for this soldier. What am I going to do? What am I going to use him for? So in this example here, Dwayne Fluffy Warren, he started with Strong Back, and I gave him aim because I want to do a little experiment with him. I want to use cannons on this soldier and try to use these cannons for more than just the demolition or suppression skills, but to actually hit enemies. And since cannons get a hefty aim penalty, I am going to try and offset that with aim, and of course the Strong Back to carry that around the battlefield without lagging behind. I haven't tried it yet. I'll see what comes out of it. Other options would be, for example, taking Gunslinger here. So I could maybe have a cannon that can only be used with the first action, and using the pistol and the backup as a backup weapon if I want to move and shoot. Blitzhacker, Battle Space, so these are all somewhat viable when I look at Strongback. Strongback is one of the most universal skills here and has applications for a lot of things. I like this one really a lot. Yeah. If we look at this from some other perspective, if we take this Paladin, for example, and look at his abilities, we can now see that Strongback appears here and the rest is identical. I start with Blade Master. One thing to keep in mind for some of these skills are there are some combinations here that are not viable. So if you start out with Blade Master, you likely don't want to use Gunslinger, because of course you can't use a sword with a pistol at the same time, because you have only one secondary weapon. It could still make some sense, I guess, if you really want to have a Gunslinger that gets these plus 3 mobility. That is something you could do. I'm not sure how viable it is, but it's there. But just generally speaking, the abilities that are tied to secondary weapons kind of exclude each other. So Gunslinger, Blitzhacker, and Blade Master. Right. After picking the first two skills, you kind of have a feel for what you want to do with the soldier, and I found that often, well, at least after the professional tier, I'd say, after that things just fall into place, because you have kind of a plan now and settled on maybe a weapon combination that you're going to use, and you will find that from the following perk choices, it will be almost obvious where to go next. So the real flexibility, in my opinion, does not primarily come from the skill tree, but it comes from the weapon selection. and I'll kind of let that guide what I'm going to do here. Nonetheless, I think it's useful if we go over the skills real quick before we can take a look at the weapons. So at professional tier, and I go over these fairly quickly because most of them you know from vanilla. There's Shadow Step, Implacable, Steady Hands, Deep Cover, Hunter's Instinct, Ever Vigilant, and Field Medic. All of them are, well, open-ended. I often don't feel a strong compulsion to take one of them. The only exception would be if I'm a character that has hacking. I often want to pick Field Medic too, because healers are just really good. And using medical gremlins together with medkit gives a lot of charges for well, the medical protocol, of course. Continuing from there, we have some skills here that are a bit more specialized. So you have Shadow Strike. Shadow Strike gives a +10 aim, +10 crit when a soldier is not visible to a target. Note that this says not visible to the target and not is concealed. So this works with sniper rifles at squad set range. Really powerful, by the way. I pick this usually when I'm using sniper rifles or DMRs. Bladestorm, obvious what it's for. Similarly obvious Lightning Hands. I guess you could use heavy ordnance on soldiers that don't want to have a launcher. Technically, you could just use 4 grenades because you think that's cool. Usually I find I have a better option here, but it's certainly an option. There are 2 Overwatch specific skills here, Guardian and Cool Under Pressure. I when I'm already in some build that wants to go on Overwatch a lot, because maybe I picked Ever Vigilant or the Death Watch, then picking one of these is usually a good idea. I found Guardian really cool with laser rifles. Laser rifles have unlimited ammunition, so you can probably see where I'm going with this. Auto medication is a nice little skill that gives some health regeneration to the soldier when he's carrying a medikit, so he doesn't have to use charges on healing himself if he gets wounded, and can just use the charges from the field medic to spread the healing around. It's not really a priority skill in my opinion, but it's nice to have, and sometimes you end up with a character that can't really use any of the other skills very well, because he's kind of a support guy, and auto-medication is a fine stand-in then. Excuse me. So at Expert we have Conceal, Run and Gun, Bracing. Bracing allows you to use heavy cannons and sniper rifles on the on the second action too, so you can move and shoot with them, which is usually not possible. On the right character this is absolutely powerful. Little downside there, braced shots cannot use squad sight or cause criticals. Thankfully, else this ability would be absolutely busted on those characters, and I would probably field whole squads with cannons. We have Death from Above, Heartbreaker, which by the way is a nice combo with Hunter's Instinct. Now these don't look like it, but Hunter's Instinct and Heartbreaker are secretly skills for pistol users, which I guess is why they are in this column. Going Gunslinger, then Hunter's Instinct, then Lightning Hands, then Heartbreaker does wonderful things with pistols. Get a mag pistol and that thing dishes out more damage than any bolt caster ever could. There's Vigilance. you probably know this if you ever played Lomo 2 or A Better Advent. Both have a similar ability on particularly annoying Advent enemies. So you can fire at an enemy and immediately enter into Overwatch. I believe this, just like Ever Vigilant, doesn't work with the two weapon types that need two actions to shoot. So you can't use these with cannon or a sniper rifle. But just Vigilance on a DMR with maybe Guardian and it's getting silly soon. So if you build for it, you can do some really cool things here. Holo targeting is also a really good skill that has a lot of general appeal to a lot of different builds. At Ace, we've have some truly powerful things now. Assassinate almost guarantees, well, not guarantees, but will one-shot a lot of enemies you encounter, or at least leave them severely crippled. So 6 extra damage on a critical strike from concealment is a lot of extra damage. Of course, there are some conditions to it, which keep it in check. As Untouchable, which is just broken, always has been. The Salvo, which is just good, but with heavy ordnance, and yeah, you get where this is going too. There's Dead Eye, Rapid Fire, Kill Zone, and Smoke and Mirrors. Smoke and Mirrors gives additional flashbangs and smoke grenades per slot. And finally, at Legend, you get the skills to really clean house. So there's Serial, Reaper, Face Off, and Saturation Fire. Pretty much classic Kernel skills that can attack multiple enemies. Face Off is not really a classic Kernel skill, but it's in the correct spot. So as I said earlier, with Hunter's Instinct and Heartbreaker and all these in the mix, Face Off proved to be really, really good in this mod. So it used to be in the veteran slot up here, and it used to not have the -15 to aim and crit chance, and you could just ride Face Off to victory. And there was a slew of nerfs to it during the beta, and now it ends up here in its nerfed state on the Legend slot, and it's still an easy pick if you're into pistols with the character. So not really much to complain about there, I guess. There's Volatile Mix and Rupture, also pretty standard for Kernel skills, I guess. And another unique skill, this is Drone Master. It gives 15 hack for a turn and 2 extra drone actions. So you can fire off a lot of combat protocols or a haywire and combat protocol or whatever, and it won't cost you any actions. I haven't used this yet, but it sounds nice. I would certainly be eager to use it. I haven't actually gotten a soldier to Legend myself yet. The best I have is in this campaign it's just veterans, but I've got to Ace before. Yeah, I absolutely had Killzone snipers before, but I never reached Legend. Anyways. So those are the abilities that are available, and as I said, I would not look at the ability tree and think about which abilities work together. I would look at the weapons in your loadout and think about what I'm going to use there. So let me just pick one of the low-level soldiers who doesn't have anything currently. Okay, so you could you could use any secondary you have available. You could use a pistol, a gremlin, a sword, or what's the fourth one? A launcher. Or a launcher here in the spot, and could combine it with any of the 7 primaries. You've got assault rifles, you've got 2 types of sniper rifles, sniper rifle and DMR. You've got 2 types of heavy weapons. You've got the heavy cannon and the saw, and you've got 2 types of short-range weapons, I'd say, the shotgun and the submachine gun. The assault rifle is just your basic, shooty thing with medium range, has some armor pierce, does medium damage. The DMR sits somewhere between the sniper rifle and the assault rifle. It has a slight aim bonus, has a little bit more armor pierce, better criticals, and has squad sight, but it does slightly less damage, and has, I think there was some other downside to it. Oh, of course, the long range means that it gets massive penalties to aim on short range. So you can't just throw DMRs on everyone. Sniper rifles do a lot of damage, pierce a lot of armor, but they give -1 mobility, and you get a +10 aim bonus from them, small clips, and you need both actions to fire them. There's the saw. The saw does good damage, has good clip size, gets a slight aim penalty, a mobility penalty, and it's basically an upgraded assault rifle. Excuse me. The saw comes with 2 abilities built in, actually. It has suppression, pinning down a target. The penalty to a target's aim is -50, so that's significant, and usually forces them to move if they want to do anything. And there's Bullet Storm, which is kind of a nerfed hail of bullets. Instead of always hitting, it just gives a +10 aim bonus, but it also increases the damage. Heavy cannons do ridiculous damage for being ballistic tier. You can see they are doing 4 to 10 damage already with a clip size of 8. Of course, the disadvantages are huge. You get a hefty -10 aim penalty and -2 mobility, and you also can only use them on the first action. So that's what you pay for getting heavy damage. They are also the only ballistic weapon that has innate shred already built in. They have 2 abilities. They have suppression, just like the saw, but instead of the bullet shred they have demolition, and this demolition ability is the real deal, the real deal maker on the cannon. I barely use it to actually shoot at enemies. I usually use it to uncover them and then rip them to shreds with other soldiers. Shotguns, short range, high damage, negative armor pierce. So if the enemy has armor, he actually gets more armor when the damage gets calculated. So you can see this shotgun has armor pierce -1. So if I shoot with 4 to 8 against an enemy that has 1 armor pip, it will count as 1 extra armor pip, and you will end up doing 2 to 6 damage. Later you will find advent mag shotguns, for example, that have up to -3 or even more armor pierce. So you will absolutely... these are weapons that are doing high damage, but you might need to shred the armor first, or well, use them against unarmored opponents. And finally the submachine gun, who is last, but definitely not least. They have a really cool ability, which is Strafing Shot. Strafing Shot means that after firing your weapon, you're granted a single bonus move. Now this bonus move isn't at full mobility, but it's enough to get into cover. So what you can do is just take the submachine gun, walk up to an enemy, point it right to his face, shoot him, likely crit him, and then walk back into cover. As you can see, I use this tactic quite often myself. I have one modified here to have some extra crit to build towards that exact strategy. Can take a quick look at the spark cannon here. They work like cannons. I haven't used sparks yet, so I'm actually not sure if later versions of the spark cannon get anything other than bonuses. It would appear that the spark cannon doesn't have the mobility penalty, which would be an advantage over the regular cannon. And of course it makes sense. Spark would be able to carry that. Yeah, okay, so that's spark cannons. I think that's the first time I looked at them. So what you want to do is combine one of the secondaries with one of the primaries, and you'll find that some combinations work better than others. I can only suggest you try what works best for you. I'm still trying to figure out some stuff myself. Of course, there are some classics that will always work, like using a shotgun and a sword with each other and just go vanilla ranger. With the cannon, I like to use a pistol in the second slot, so I can still move and fire, similar to how the pistol is used on the sharpshooter in vanilla. For the Gremlin, I like to use them together with sniper rifles or DMRs, because I can use the Gremlin at squad set range, so that's a natural fit. But if all the class mods that exist for vanilla or for long war have taught me one thing, is that even some strange combinations work very well in practice. So for example, when I played with the Shadow Ops class pack, I was really liking the sniper rifle plus sword combination. It's something that doesn't sound like it would work, but works actually really well. So I just advise you to test some things and try to work it out. Let's be honest here, the first two times that you play Spectrum, you're going to fail anyways, horribly. You can be sure of that. So use those first tries to get a feel for the weapons and see what works, and yeah, what you prefer yourself, and then see what kind of abilities work with that approach. Yeah, that's basically what I wanted to say for this. We can, as kind of a bonus at the end, take a quick look at what I have. What I have in my barracks currently. I'm actually not quite sure right now. Let's see what we have. So Giggles here has been lightly wounded on one of the last missions. He still has his equipment, so this could be useful. So as you can see, I have Deathwatch, Strongback, Ever Vigilant Guardian soldier here. So Deathwatch gives the bonuses to overwatches and extra damage on misses with the assault rifle. So for that reason I'm using a standard assault laser rifle here to make full use of that, and using Ever Vigilant and Guardian to further increase the better overwatch I'm getting. Thanks to Strongback, I can carry this grenade launcher and not get any movement penalties. It is displayed here, but that's just a display. When you enter tactical, you get basically how it works is Strongback on arrival in tactical looks at your equipment and gives you mobility bonuses to cancel out these penalties. Okay, he doesn't have any equipment still on him. Let's see what's going on here. So this is just basically a vanilla ranger. Phantom, Blade Master, Implacable, Bladestorm. Yeah. Probably going to take Run and Gun or Heartbreaker next. Then Untouchable and might be Untouchable, might be Rapid Fire. Depends on what primary weapon he ends up with. Judging by the abilities, I haven't decided on that yet. Okay, here's a Codebreaker. Let's take a look at this. What do we have here? So, a hacker who can use battle space to get. So this is just the pure utility support build. As a medic who can also scout a bit. I don't really love the battle space here now that I see it. That could have easily been some other skill. Maybe Phantom. Oh well. I'm sure I was trying to think of something. I mean I thought of something when I picked it. Now here's a sniper. What do we have here? Another healer apparently. Now this time on a sniper base. So this is what I talked about earlier, the sniper rifle gremlin combination. And the AWC gave me Guardian, and I doubled down on that by also picking Cool Under Pressure. That gives me the opportunity on Expert to pick Vigilance, and then instead of full-blown sniper rifle, I'm just going to use a DMR, and then use this Fire at an enemy, enter Overwatch, and get an Overwatch with Guardian and Cool Under Pressure. That should be good. That's a Paladin. We haven't looked at the Paladin yet. Oh, she also has her equipment. Now this, what you can see here, is an advanced shotgun. Can take this opportunity and take a quick look at it. So there you see that's 5 to 9 damage, and there's the -3 armor pierce. Also low environmental damage. Now that I see it. Okay, so that's what's going on with the shotgun. Looking at the abilities, this looks like, yeah, that's pretty much the same build as we've seen on the Hunter before, except that the Hunter started with Phantom, and now the Paladin of course starts with Blade Master. So the difference between the two is different layout of the stats here, and the Veteran gets the +3 mobility, while the Scout is harder to detect. Hunter, I mean, while the Hunter is harder to detect due to the stealth specialty they start with. Looking at the stats here, so we have 7, 73, 76. 7, 73, 76. Let's take this opportunity. So 7, 73, 76. So apparently the paladin also has a lot more health than the other guy had, than the hunter had. Interesting. That's quite the difference. 4 health to 7 health. I didn't expect that. So what does the hunter get? Oh, he gets crit chance. Okay, so that's of course not displayed here. So instead of getting one really big bonus, he gets multiple smaller bonuses to various things. So stealth, crit, and aim and mobility. Okay, so cool. That might be fair after all then. Now here we have, what do we have here? A scout. Also has been on the last mission, so we have some equipment here, a plasma weapon, plasma rifle, and the axes. Looking at the skills, this looks very, well, uninspired in general. Battle space, scout, ever vigilant, cool under pressure, so I didn't really commit to anything with these skills. I could basically swap any primaries or secondaries on her, and it would still work out fine. Because of the ever vigilant, I'd probably not use a cannon or a sniper rifle, but other than that, this is very open-ended. Did we look at a Spartan yet? No, we didn't. So Spartans have a lot of health, 9 here on a veteran. And what's going on here? There's the strong back with Deathwatch again, ever vigilant and heavy ordnance. Okay, so looking at the skills here and looking at the equipment here, that doesn't fit together. I'm not sure what I did there. Probably I looked at my roster, didn't have one to carry the cannon yet. I always take a cannon on missions, so I usually also want to pick one guy who has strong back, so I can lug that thing around. And she was probably the only one who wasn't fatigued and had strong back to carry it. Otherwise I can't really explain that. If I see ever vigilant, I wouldn't expect a cannon because they don't work with each other. And if I see heavy ordnance, I would expect a launcher. So this whole skill tree really points more towards something with overwatches and a grenade launcher, not with this. Interesting. I wonder what I was thinking. This happens often. And what did we not look at yet? I think a Desperado. I don't have Desperado, sorry. I don't think I have a veteran Desperado, but let's see what's going on here. Well, pretty much as expected. I started with Hunter's Instinct and Lightning Hand, Heartbreaker. These are going to be my picks. I picked Aim. This points towards either going for some sniper thing, probably DMRs maybe. I don't know. Well, not off the bat. Interesting that this is there's not a Desperado in my higher soldiers. I usually use them more often. Okay. Anything else we want to look at here, or do we quit here? This is a similar sharpshooter to the other one. And do we see anything from this Codebreaker? Is he different? She got Implacable. That's just not very useful. Started out, well, Yeah. Overwatch, healing, hacking. Fairly obvious. Okay. That's enough on soldiers, I think. I'm glad I didn't have to write all these skill things down, and I hope this video uploads correctly in a minute, or else this would have been for naught. Anyways, I guess I'll see you on Reddit. There's only one more installment of this TLDR on Spectrum series coming up, a little mailbag thing where I answer some questions that came up in the other threads. Probably going to post it tomorrow or something, and then I'll be honest, I'll be glad that I got that behind me. It was a lot more work than I anticipated, and that I can get back to playing my campaign. As you can see, there's a lot of work still to do. Anyways, see you around. Bye bye.